Hello, I'm Nick here at Gorgon Reviews, and today we are talking with Luke Sparke, writer and director of the Occupation series, and more importantly, its sequel, Occupation Rainfall. Occupation Rainfall was set a few years after an alien invasion in Australia and the rest of the world, and a small town community that is trying to stop them in their area, but this time with more gadgets, guns, and aliens. So thanks for stopping by, Luke. How are you today?
That's all right. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I like your figurines.
Yeah, it's my office, my little zone where I can zone out.
Um, what is the first film you remember seeing in movie theaters growing up?
The first film I remember seeing in movie theaters was actually probably like off topic completely of sci-fi. It's probably like The Land Before Time, with the dinosaurs. But the actual first movie I remember seeing at home is watching Empire Strikes Back on uh, Betamax on my Return of the Jedi beanbag and watching it over and over and over again. That's the first movie I actually remember.
Oh, nice. Land Before Time. You keep up with that series still? They're up to
Oh God,
14.
I think I stopped after like number three. I don't know how many they have now.
As a personal note, I watched every single one of those in one day in December last year because of pandemic
Wow,
reasons. All
wow,
of them.
okay,
Um,
yeah, wow.
um, this isn't about me. You're, from what I could tell, you were listed as a military advisor in a few movies and documentaries. So how did that come about?
I'm a huge history buff. My family has a long history in the military over here in Australia. Um, I haven't joined the military, but I took obviously history classes and doctorates in history and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a huge fan of history and how it all came about. And my family owns a military advising ring, I guess, and costume and props for military films over here. So I've got to sort of work my whole life in the entertainment industry, helping the military over here with historical facts and figures and costumes, going all the way on to Steven Spielberg's The Pacific TV series, X-Men Wolverine with Hugh Jackman, coming on board to sort of help the authenticity of costumes, props, and all that kind of stuff. That's how I got into where I am today.
Yeah, I saw that you also had a lot of the art and costume credits, and that so that ties into a family business.
Yeah, that ties into a family business that was set up over here as like probably Australia's premier military costume house prop store.
Nice. Would you say your military history knowledge helped with making films that are very action team heavy?
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone mentioned to me the other day that for a guy who loves history and that I haven't actually made a historical based film yet, but I'll change that soon. Yes, but it does fall into the category of helping at least with action and using weaving the military in more of this movie than the last movie. And also, I just like harking back to historical events to try to help shape the script as I write, especially this movie. I kind of look back at like the First World War and World War II and some of those ones where, unlike sci-fi films where they destroy a battleship and suddenly all the droids turn off and fall down and they win the day, I wanted to look at the convoluted part of warfare. Of at the end of World War One, there's a handshake, but World War Two happened, and all these different facets like that in human history. It's not really clear cut. It's very convoluted. So I wanted to look at an alien race of having a warfare on Earth and some that didn't want to fight and some that do want to fight and how that all works in history. I sort of lean on a lot to sort of see what we did in our past.
Yeah. Um, how did you make the jump into directing, writing your own films?
I've always wanted to be a director. It's where I've always wanted to go. So I used all the films and TV that I've worked on as one big sort of apprenticeship, standing right next to the director, talking to people, talking to producers, making connections, learning the ropes from looking at behind the scenes, and then using that as a jump off point to use all my connections to make my first feature film and then go from there. So I sort of used it as a way to sort of learn.
Um, when you made the first Occupation movie, Did you know you also wanted to make a sequel?
No, no, it was always going to be like a one and done sort of film. I pitched it on the seat of my pants and got it up. It was supposed to just be like a really, really low budget film, sort of made for a couple of weeks and just as a movie from get me from A to C. And then it wasn't until like Tamir Morrison came on board that movie and a bunch of other sort of crew and cast came on that I kind of figured that it was getting bigger than what I originally thought. And as we were filming it, we were throwing more at it to build the sort of world and make it bigger. And then when I was finishing the edit on that film, I sort of started to dream and fantasize about where these characters go and what story I could tell that could be interesting. I sat down all the producers and team and said, I have an idea. Here's the script. It's huge. It's 400 pages. This is the story of how they finished the war on Earth, and this is where the whole story goes. And everyone said, let's do it. Let's find a way. So I've been doing this film for about 4 years, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's been good to get it out to the world and finish it.
Oh, almost done with it. Yeah. Almost at the finish line. How many more occupation movies do you have in you?
Well, without going into spoilers too much, at the end of this movie, there obviously throws up a title to say this is chapter 1. That's because the 400-page script had to get cut in half. Mm-hmm. So I've at least got one that we're in active development of it now. The casting, the script's been finalized. It's amazing. That I say anyway. But as a fan of films, I went and got some staff, a writer's room for this next movie, and really developed it to finish off the story, at least of this chapter 1 and 2 of these characters. This movie has like 1,500 visual effects shots, and that next movie has an estimated 3,100 visual effects shots. So it's like it's a massive end to the story.
Nice. And you mentioned earlier how you got the producers around to figure out the sequel and all that. And, basically it feels like the entire cast and crew, looking at the credits, returned for the sequel. And how important was it for you to be able to keep that same team together?
Yeah, I always like when stories keep not only the behind the scenes crew, but also the cast and characters. I kind of takes me out a little bit when suddenly franchises or in others movies like, oh, it's the same universe but different people, and it's kind of like, let's start again. And that can be good sometimes. Not saying it's a bad thing, but for me, I liked following the same characters and seeing where they go and where they end up. So that was really important for me. There was a couple of characters that couldn't come back for reasons of having other films and other TV shows on, so I had to write in new characters, and that was a little disappointing. But on the whole, it was great having the same team back behind the camera, and it becomes a sort of camaraderie behind the scenes to get it made.
You did get obviously some newcomers for the sequel, like Jason Isaacs and Ken Jeong. How involved were you in those casting decisions as well?
Yeah, I was very involved. They were like my first two choices for those characters. And I mentioned before that I think people like Ken, when he read the script, he liked it that it wasn't specifically written for him. It wasn't like a little Asian man comes out. It was like just a guy, and he got to play with that. I kind of let him go, and get him on set and have all these ad libs and that, which was hilarious. And Jason as well. Like I thought it'd be really interesting because I know Jason's a very funny guy. He just always gets cast as a villain most of the time. I thought he would really enjoy having him go against type and play something like this. So that was a lot of fun as well.
What's next for you besides this third movie that you already mentioned?
Yep. So hopefully our cameras will roll on that by the end of the year, maybe early next year. In the meantime, I'm working on a TV pilot for a series, a different franchise than this one. And I'm in the middle of pre-production on that. So that would be exciting.
I've just lost it for a second.
Okay. It's like time travel. This TV series I'm working on. It's like
a time travel TV series.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for including, by the way, rugby in the first occupation, because it personally most of the movies I watch, I would say 99% don't have rugby. So it's good to finally get something in there. And so that's from the movie from a few years ago. Again, the sequel does no rugby at all.
No.
But that makes sense.
Yes.
But thanks for stopping by to have a quick chat. Occupation Rainfall, yes, comes out on June 11th in theaters and on demand in the US. And I hope this series and this third movie are just as successful as your first two.
Yeah, I hope Americans like this one. I'm interested to see it come out. The first movie came out on Netflix in America, and we got a lot of fans from the Netflix release over there. It really bolstered the film. So I hope people like this one, and I'd like to continue on and do the finale. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes over there.
Thanks.
That's all right.